All right, we are back here on the podcast doing some NFL Week 1 recap. As is tradition of the podcast, we bring in our next guest, the great Joe Dalweezy. Was just on last week doing our over-unders here. Joe, we had a very interesting Week 1.
Mike, always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, real interesting. I think the best way to kind of describe it, and I've said this quite often, is Week 1 has gotten sloppier and sloppier through the years. I mean, some poor football all around, and makes you kind of feel like it's an extension of preseason with so many of these guys not playing.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, definitely the Jet game felt like that for sure here, and I got to say, the football as a whole was a very interesting quality where it looked like some teams were ready to go. There was very low offense. It was all over the place.
I mean, that's why, that's the beauty of it, right? Like, we wait so long, it comes so quick, it's here, and then we're super excited to sit down and watch nonstop football from, starting Thursday night, and then when the week, all the way to Monday, and then when the week wraps up and it finishes, you kind of feel underwhelmed after a lot of the performances that you saw across the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let's talk about some of the performance we saw from the local teams here, starting with the New York Football Giants here, who came in as 1-point underdogs against the Vikings and absolutely stunk up the joint. Daniel Jones throws a big pick six. You see fans stream for the Eggs in the third quarter here. What was your takeaway from what we saw out of the Giants Week 1?
If I am a Giants fan, I want the season to end already.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones at this point, it's like you keep giving what feels like second and third chances. You try to get young talent, and it's just not working. It's just not working. And I think, they gave him the big contract, obviously with the clause that if things don't work out this year, he's out of here. But I think the writing is on the wall. And I'll tell you what, if they continue to play this poorly, I mean, you know how the fan base is in New York. They're already calling and booing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this continues, that he finds his way on the bench.
Yeah, it's a scary time for a Giant fan, too, because this is a situation here where it's not like, at least the Jets, who had their issues, like they look competent at times and they played a great team. The Giants played a team they're about on par with talent-wise and got run out of the building at home, which is not a good look.
I mean, the fact that it was Sam Darnold, who notoriously was seeing ghosts at MetLife Stadium. I mean, he had no issues. It's interesting. The Giants invest a first-round pick in Malik Neighbors. He was able to get somewhat involved. You have last year drafting Jalen Hyatt. He's nowhere to be found. It just, you start to wonder how much talent is actually on this team. And you see the one piece that they lost, how influential he is, because Saquon Barkley had himself a day on Friday night for the Eagles.
He absolutely did here. And we'll go across town here to the Jets, and obviously they show you some flashes. Aaron Rodgers has that one drive. He has the classic free play touchdown Allen Lazard, but there are concerning signs of the Jets too. I mean, they had no pass rush on Brock Purdy. They got bully up the middle. There was very little help outside of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall here. So what's your feeling on the Jets right now?
See, here's the difference here between the Jets and the Giants. If I'm a Giants fan, I'm in full panic mode. If I'm a Jets fan, yeah, obviously I'm disappointed that we didn't come out looking the way that we probably anticipated we should look in Week 1. But there is a silver lining here in the fact that you went up against one of the top teams in the league in the San Francisco 49ers, albeit they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, all the chaos that ensued over the offseason with contract disputes. Everything ends up working out. So you lost against a very good team, right? It's not like you lost to the New York Giants. It's not like you played against the Carolina Panthers, right? You lost against a good team. Your quarterback showed that he's back. He is healthy. He looks fine back there. He did get hit a couple of times that you wanted to see. The biggest concern, and I think the defense will work itself out, like you mentioned, the pass rush, and also the inability to stop the run. Yeah, I think that is something to be a little bit concerned about. But hey, the Jets, you look at their schedule, they're posed now over the next few weeks or so to go on a little bit of a run, right? They have the Titans, the Patriots, the Broncos, Vikings. Those should all be wins. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, you drop a couple more of those early ones before having to play Buffalo, then I would be a little concerned. But right now, I don't think you hit the panic button.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think we have some runway with the Jets, try and get things better here. In terms of around the league a little bit, I was going to touch on your team a bit because they had the biggest injury of week one outside of Puka Nacua, and Jordan Love is out now. They say 3 to 4 weeks with the meniscus sprain. Obviously, the worst case scenario avoided here, but not easy for Green Bay next few weeks. How do you think they're able to stay afloat with Malik Willis, a quarterback?
You know, it sounds like Matt LaFleur is confident in Malik Willis. I don't necessarily agree with that. I would have much preferred, or rather preferred, them try to bring in a veteran quarterback to kind of stay afloat. It's unfortunate that Love went down. Ironically enough, I was talking about this game on another podcast, and I said, "Listen, it's week one. It's going to be sloppy. Not to mention, it's international. You don't know what to expect with these international games. We saw the field was a disaster. I thought it was a toss-up going into it. I thought Green Bay played well and had a chance to kind of to win that game if they executed a little bit better. But my most important aspect, or my most important thought going into it, was, hey, leave Brazil healthy. And of course, when you see that happen with literally seconds left on the clock, I just gasped. Yeah, part of me felt like many Jet fans last year who saw Rodgers go down. Now, granted, it was at the beginning of a game and not the end of a game, but the same thing kind of went through my mind is, oh my God, here we go. Like, we had so much hope and expectations were so high, and now it's all gone. Luckily, they escaped. He should only be out 3 to 4 weeks. We shall see. I mean, you take a look at the schedule, Colts, Titans, Vikings, not the toughest, right? Not the toughest. You should be able to, if I'm Green Bay, I'm satisfied going into that Rams game in the first week of October on the road. If I'm 2-2, I'm happy with where I stand.
Oh, I certainly would be too here. And let's bounce around the league some more here. What's the craziest thing you saw in week one? Whether it could be a result, it could be a play. I know a couple jumped to mind, including like Isaiah Likely being a toe away from forcing a potential 2-point conversion for the win for the Ravens. Like Cincinnati not showing up against New England. There's a lot of crazy ones in this league.
Yeah, there was a lot of wackiness, a lot of craziness. I'll start with probably the Texans and the Colts. Anthony Richardson's touchdown pass falling on his back, on his back foot, launching the ball 60 yards in the air. I thought that was an absolutely incredible play. The Saints putting up 47 points. I thought they would beat the Panthers. I didn't think they'd put up 47 points. You mentioned already the Bengals not showing up, Joe Burrow not showing up, but hey, at least the Bengals are consistent. They typically don't show up the first 2 weeks. There was a lot of, wackiness throughout. And I tell you one thing that also stood out, the poor quarterback play from the rookies.
Oh, they were brutal.
If you had a rookie quarterback going in week one, they did not look very good. I mean, I don't mean to bring up Caleb Williams. I feel like I constantly bring up Caleb Williams, but there was so much hype and drooling over him in preseason. What a throw. And yeah, I know they won that game and they came back after being down 17-0. They should thank the Titans and Will Levis for that. But I didn't think Caleb Williams did anything spectacular at all. And not just him, just any of the rookie quarterbacks for that matter.
Yeah, they all had their issues here. I think in terms of the crazy stuff I saw, I think obviously some of the performances of some of these teams that we thought were going to be good here. I think Cincinnati's definitely one. The Browns, like, getting embarrassed by Dallas, another one here. Like, who do you feel like is the biggest loser from week one? Like, who do you think had the worst showing in week one?
The biggest loser, I would have to say, are the Bengals. I mean, there comes a point where it's like, hey, if you want to be contenders, you gotta wake up and smell the coffee. And I hate to overreact over week one, but this Patriots team is not a good Patriots team. I mean, this is a team that should be picking in the top five come the NFL draft. Joe Burrow, if he wants to take that next step, it seems like that window for Cincinnati gets closer and closer to closing, and they just can't figure it out. I definitely have them as my biggest losers of week one.
Yeah, for me, I think they're up there. I say the Falcons definitely up there because starting the Kirk Cousins ever like that is not ideal. I will say also the Browns, just because I feel like with the expectations of Deshaun Watson coming back here, their defense no shows against the Cowboys, and Watson looks completely inept moving the offense. That's a very alarming sign in a tight division.
Well, I'll tell you what, if that's the Deshaun Watson we're going to see all season long, for the Browns in for a long, long year, because he looked god-awful. He looked like he hasn't played football in a really long time, and he looks like, we've seen the best of Deshaun Watson, put it to you that way. I don't think we're going to see that vintage Deshaun Watson that the Browns were hoping they got when they got him and gave him all that money.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go the other way. Who had the most impressive week one in your opinion? I can think of a few candidates.
Oh, so most impressive, I got to be honest, I thought it was the 49ers on Monday night against the Jets. I mean, here's a team, you lose CMC, he's out. He gets replaced by Jordan Mason, who, I'll be honest, before last night, I had no idea who Jordan Mason was. They had so many issues this offseason, the Brandon Ayuk, the Trent Williams, but they figured it out. And it looked like they didn't miss a beat at all. Now, obviously, Brandon Ayuk drops a ball or two here or there, but overall, as a team, they just seemed so efficient and really stood out to me. And kudos to the coaching staff there, because those guys, not only are they always prepared, but they are definitely one of the top teams in the league.
Yeah, obviously they were very impressive. I'll also throw out here Dallas, I mentioned earlier, what they did. I feel like seeing what the Chargers were able to do in Jim Harbaugh's debut, the physicality they brought to the game was definitely very nice. And say what you want about the opponent, the Saints putting up 47 points score in the first 8 possessions is definitely something worth watching.
Well, without a doubt. And you know what? The spread of the wealth for the 47 points was something that kind of that struck me. I mean, you had Chris Olave, who is, should be one of the top targets or top options, who was very quiet throughout the entire game, and just other people just showing up all over the place. And I thought that was impressive by Derek Carr, having one of the better performances of week one for quarterbacks, throwing 3 touchdowns and not turning the ball over at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let's go ahead to week 2 here of the 0-1 teams. So give me your top 3 you feel like are in the most trouble if they drop to 0-2.
Ooh, top 3. All right. So top 3. Well, number 1 has to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And they have a tough matchup against the Chiefs. But I think the further that Cincinnati falls behind, the worse it's going to be for Joe Burrow and company. I mean, then the pressure starts to build. So I'm definitely throwing the Bengals up there. I think for the New York Jets, they're another team. You can't go 0-2. You're playing a really bad Titans team. Will Levis is not a great quarterback. They should have some success, gain some momentum, gain some confidence going up against a Will Levis offense. So the Jets definitely can't afford to go 0-2. If I had to throw a third team out there, the third team that I would throw out there is the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, I don't think they're going to struggle against the Raiders, but here's a team that you almost won week 1. Here's where I want to see the Ravens score 45 points and take down the Raiders. Show them, hey, we belong in this conversation.
Yeah, those are some excellent choices you've had here. I'll throw a couple more out here just for the sake of variety. I will mention here that I feel like, obviously, Cleveland here, it's a winnable road game in Jacksonville. Like, if they go to 0-2, you don't feel good about their chances here. I'll throw out here the Rams because I know Arizona was feisty, but don't want to start 0-2 in a tough conference here. And just because of what they have coming up after this game here. If the New York Giants do not beat Washington on Sunday, there is a realistic chance they could be staring 0-7, 0-8 in the face.
Yeah, it's scary. And one more team that I think they're going to end up going 0-2, and it's an interesting storyline. The Atlanta Falcons. I know you mentioned them earlier and how poorly Kirk Cousins played, and I was shocked with how poor he played in that debut. But that's a team that invested an early first-round pick in Michael Penix Jr., and you better believe that the people in Atlanta, if they start to slip, I mean, they're going to be calling for Michael Penix to get on the field.
Yeah, because I saw bits and pieces of that game. I was on Red Zone Sunday afternoon because the Jets were not playing on Sunday, so I was watching that most of the way through. And like Kirk Cousins, like it was very weird the way they had him set up, where he was basically operating out of the gun or the pistol most of the time, because like you could tell that they don't trust his mobility to be able to protect himself right now, which is not good.
Yeah, which is a little concerning to me, and if I'm a fan, I'd be concerned too. I was glad that you didn't see that as much with Rodgers. I don't know if you saw the difference there.
Yeah, Rodgers,
even though they didn't have him moving out much, but he seemed way more comfortable than Kirk Cousins for sure.
Yeah, and he also had a 2-month jump on Kirk Cousins tearing the Achilles. Rodgers now basically a full year. This is 10 months.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Let's look ahead to week 2, obviously. We have not as strong a slate as week 1, in my opinion, but we do have some interesting games on tap. What are you watching for in week 2?
Okay, so what I am watching in week 2, a couple games. I'm very interested in the Buccaneers and the Lions. All right. These are two teams based on, how they've played in years past, how they've come out of the gate. This could be a playoff matchup down the road. How does Baker Mayfield play against Dan Campbell and company? How does Jared Goff and that offense kind of take that next step? I mean, you saw a really good game out of Jameson Williams, but I thought the Rams did an incredible job on St. Brown. So how does he bounce back? I got my eyes on that game as an NFC showdown. Sticking with another NFC showdown, Saints Cowboys, two teams that are 1-0. You saw what the Cowboys did to the Browns in week 1, pretty easily handed it to them. Same way for the Saints, handed it to the Carolina Panthers. Who's real here and who's not? Can the Saints build off of that week 1 victory, or are the Cowboys that much superior? I think the Cowboys are, but it's going to be interesting to see. And I think the week starts off great with the divisional rivalry game on Thursday night between the Bills and the Dolphins. I was shocked with how slow the Bills started, going down 17-3 to the Cardinals, another team that doesn't look too good. And the Dolphins, they had to come back. They had a slow start against Jacksonville as well on Sunday. So I think it's two teams that they are going to beat the hell out of each other. And this is not the first, second, or, they're going to see each other twice, but they could also see each other down the road in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, those definitely some great games. Also throughout your Bengals Chiefs for the desperation factor of the Bengals trying to take care of business against the Chiefs, who they've had success against in the past year. The Sunday night matchup is intriguing with the quarterbacks here with Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud. I think that's certainly interesting here. And 49ers going to the Vikings here. So, they get the big win. You don't know McCaffrey is back, short week, traveling. So you never know. Maybe the Vikings have a little magic here. The 49ers struggled there last year.
Yeah, it's. I don't really love the Vikings. It has nothing to do with the Packer fandom, I promise. I think the 49ers defense will have their way with Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold is anything to be scared of. I'm interested in seeing Caleb Williams on prime time. If anything is better, if he has improved a little bit after getting the week 1 jitters out, but I could see Houston kind of taking care of business relatively easily there.
Absolutely here. Joe, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you on social media. How can I do that?
Yeah, Mike, always a pleasure. You can give me a shout on X at Joe_DalloIsio.
Do not forget the double, folks. You won't find him otherwise.
You won't find me. You'll see me crying about Mike Phillips, though. That's for sure if you do find me.
Absolutely, Joe. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Mike. Thanks for having me.